When I think of reconciliation, I guess I just think of, being aware of what happened and trying to, undo that in a way or try to heal what we've done.
When I hear the word, I think of the Aboriginal people and how they were treated, and they were treated very poorly.
I think reconciliation is important, especially for the Indigenous peoples, because there's a lot of hurt in like some of those peoples right now because of what has happened in the past. So like the sooner we can help heal this what has happened, the better, because otherwise the hurt just keeps getting passed down through the generations.
I've heard about the bad treatment that they're still getting on reserves, such as not being provided clean water and also lots of problems in their house that like leakages and whatnot that are fixed with a very long delay.
I have some friends that are Aboriginal, and they've been treated somewhat poorly because of what people think of them, and they just think of them as like a lower class, like the lowest possible thing on the earth, basically, because they don't understand like where they came from or like their religion or how they like were brought up.
Even though the last residential school was closed about 20 years ago in 1996, that doesn't change the fact that they've been affected unless we start to reconnect with the Indigenous peoples.
My school is like they've brought in Aboriginal people to talk about residential schools, and they've told us about it and some of their experience with it. And basically, they just told us basically a horror story, how they were treated poorly, and they were, it was an unsafe place. They felt hopeless, even. They felt basically they were treated like not even human in a way. It's really sad how human beings can treat each other like that. Like, we're all human. I don't understand.
So at Gracefield, which is our camp center out in Quebec, we have a May retreat every year, and the theme of this year's May retreat was about the Aboriginal peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. So I think that out of all my experiences with learning about this was what really opened my eyes, because it was really focused on that, and it wasn't a side note, it was the focus of it.
So in grade 3, I remember learning a bit about the Aboriginal people's way of life, and not in very much detail, but mainly the Algonquins, that how they'd make their clothes, and some of their rituals and stuff like that. But as it progressed, as history class progressed, it started to be mainly just the Aboriginal people's in contact with the Europeans. So I never actually learned about the Inuit or Aboriginal peoples elsewhere in Canada until I found an interest of it on my own and started researching myself.
I've had two quite different experiences in learning about the Aboriginal peoples. First one was elementary school, where, again, it was just a brief side note in our textbook. Wasn't very clear about it, just said, oh yeah, and there were these people, but back to, the Europeans. That's what's important. So I found that was kind of, a little exclusive. They should have included all of the information. But now in my in my history classes in 7th and 8th grade, I feel like it was more inclusive, but I mean there's still a lot to work on because we barely touched any of what happened. It was mostly just who founded Canada and who's, who had all the power, who is important, who, that sort of thing. I feel like they really founded it. They were there first. It wasn't really, it was definitely biased, that's for sure. That's what I want.
Well, I think with the calls to action that were released earlier this year, I think that's really important because it's concrete and it gives people like set things that they can do to go out and help. And I think that's a really important a document that's been released by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission because it enables just normal citizens to really go out and help spread the word and help heal the bond with the First Nations peoples.
I think the definition of being involved, I think it's just be aware of what's happened and what's happening now, and I guess be prepared to tell others.
I would say just keep an open mind because some people have their opinions on what they think of Aboriginal people are, and if they want to accept the fact of all the different things they've gone through, and it's a lot to take in, so they should just keep an open mind and they'll learn so much more.
I think education for both increasing the education budget in the First Nations and Aboriginal communities, so allowing them to have things like electives and extracurriculars and books and all these different things that we have and they should be allowed to have as well. And I also think education in our school systems so that we can learn the truth and also take steps to achieving reconciliation even as young people.